Hi, everyone. I'm Joanne Smith. My co-authors are Smith-Flueck, Miguel Escobar, and Zygmunt Dzieciuszewski. Today I'm going to talk about the southernmost deer in the world and the loss of migration as a root cause behind their failure to recover. First of all, we have the Patagonia Huemul deer, Hippocamelus basulcus. It's indigenous to Argentina and Chile and on the red list of the IUCN. It's considered the most endangered deer in the Americas. Their past distribution has been reduced drastically. They once were going all the way to the Pacific Ocean, and now about 1% of their past distribution remains today in the upper Andes. They are about 2,000 kilometers along the spine of the Andes. There's no more than 1,500 animals. They're fragmented among 100 subpopulations, which you see here in the red dots. The causes of decline would be past hunting, loss and fragmentation of habitat, diseases, and exotic species, which include livestock and dogs. One of the drivers to local extinctions would be the lack of fear towards humans. Here we see an Argentine gaucho with a hunting knife approaching the Huemul. Here we see Pritchard in his expedition of 1902. Upon waking in the steppe, he was surrounded by a group of Huemul. Here I am below, and my husband, Smith-Flueck, is taking this picture just above. Some other examples of their natural tameness. Okay, why aren't populations recovering? The common interpretation is that current areas of extant subpopulations represent prime habitat. However, most populations persist in marginal areas. Considering this, we would instead propose that Huemuls are not using optimal habitats today, but rather are persisting in suboptimal areas that are remote, and this has effectively made them a refugee species. We asked if Huemul had lost the tradition to migrate down to the lower elevations in the winter, where today people are found, livestock, dogs, and roads. Here's an example of how the subpopulations are characterized. Herds at high elevations, they're remote, inaccessible to get to, separated from one another by many kilometers, thus fragmented, and the winter ranges today are full of people, livestock, and dogs. Here's an example of one subpopulation, Cerro-Pirque. The population today only remains at the top of the mountain, about 12 individuals, where once it would go down to the lower valley, fertile lands. Today we have a major highway, in fact, a national highway that goes right through this region. Lots of farms, lots of homes. So they remain all year up at these high altitude habitats of the nothofagus beech forests. And they don't get to go down because that winter range is now occupied by towns and farms. Considering the situation of many populations similar to this, the Huemul have been described as a mountain deer adapted to the Andes Mountains. However, this assumption has led to the characterization of the species as predominantly a browser and a non-migratory. This has been influencing the course of Huemul conservation and the approaches taken over the past 4 decades. Considering this, we propose that Huemul are not using optimal habitats today, but are found in the mountain islands and are becoming a refugee species. The study objectives. For the present study, we conducted an extensive literature review of historical records of this species, where we examined any evidence of their occurrence in the treeless lower landscapes of Patagonia. Then we looked at the first group of Huemul ever radio-collared in Argentina, and here we provide new information of seasonal habitat use. Finally, we discussed the implications of them having lost migratory traditions and the consequences of being forced to live year-round in what were formerly seasonal summer habitat. So the study area we selected was shown in Protected Park. It's on the eastern slopes of the southern Andes. And this watershed contains the big lakes of Fontana and Lago La Plata, and they're surrounded by tall mountains. These mountains delineate the border with Chile. During the winter of 2017, we captured and radio fitted 3 adult males and 3 adult females. We took advantage of the snow as whale come down to use the shore when the snow is deep in the forest. We are then able to float up to them and dart from the boat, or if conditions don't allow for that, we can walk along the shore and take advantage of their lack of fear of us humans. Using this radio telemetry, we located these collared individuals about at least once a month to determine if they were alive or dead. And we also recorded their GPS location whenever possible, and we made general observations regarding their physical state, their reproductive state, and group composition. The study was conducted from August 2017 to December 2020. GPS locations were used to calculate home ranges. We used the minimum concave polygon approach, and then we calculated the largest linear distance of displacement and looked at elevational shifts between the winter and summer locations and compared among the individuals. Looking at the historical and the current spatial distribution, from the literature review, we came up with 449 historical records beginning from 1521. We also constructed this map, which shows was kind of an update of the current and the past distribution of the species in Argentina and Chile. Here in Table 1, we show some of the historical records showing that the whale were out in the areas beyond the current distribution, out in the steppe and open grasslands. As far as the study area was concerned, we found some records of numerous specimens being collected during the expedition of the Swiss Anchorena in 1902. These specimens were 35 kilometers east of the current whale population at Lago La Plata. 3 years later, O'Neill, another 180 kilometers east of the present study population, sighted some whale. And then in total, from the literature review, we found an additional 40 localities with historical evidence of whale presence out toward the east of the Andes and into the open plains. Considering historical observations and records in this watershed of the Lago La Plata, Lago Fontana, we can say assuredly that the whale formerly occurred much further east. Looking at annual home ranges for the 3 males and 3 females, we have white for females and the red for the males. Mean annual size of the home ranges did not differ between the males and the females, males having 120 hectares, females averaging 198, the females being influenced by one that moved 2.3 kilometers to use a flat valley soon after her capture, which resulted in a home range of 464 hectares. Her movement coincided with a large group of campers coming in to use the area down by the lake. Now, looking at the locations where we recorded the whale, we have the 3 males in the upper part and the 3 females down below. The red tacks are for the summer, and the yellow tacks are for the winter. And the winter, as you can see, are all closer to the lake. Now, we did have a few exceptional movements. The one was that female. Then we had a male who went 4.7 kilometers here in the third insert on the top. And he went 4.7 kilometers away, but it was just a couple days before he died. We did a necropsy, found out he died of starvation, malnutrition, and he had a severe bone pathology, which negatively affected his foraging behavior. The coastline of Lago La Plata is 930 meters. And when we look at the summer elevational ranges and the winter elevational ranges, we find that they're pretty similar, and for both sexes also. The minimal elevation difference between the lowest summer and the highest winter location for each Waymo averaged 67.3 meters. All this data and results indicate residential behavior. Also indicating residential behavior is the year-round average elevations for the males and females. So the local extirpations of Waymo resulted in due to their lack of fear of humans, and historical observations corroborate that Waymo in the past frequently were year-round residents in the valleys and the lower elevation winter ranges, while some did migrate between summer and winter ranges. Current habitat used by Waymo in the Shonan Protected Park represent only a small fraction of the watershed reported to have been used historically. This Waymo population of Shonan Park we found were year-round residents within a single and well-defined area, and we corroborated this with numerous antlers we found in that area, which indicate males were there during the winter when they shed their antlers. These resident Waymo use an area that is typical summer range habitat and is unsuitable for year-round inhabitancy due to nutritional limitations, as evidenced by prevalent pathology, which we have published in other research. We found there are no Waymo subpopulations where migration is known to occur in current times, and most other extant Waymo groups are not recolonizing nearby areas. Another interesting fact is that the snow line rose about 200 meters in many parts of the Andes in the last century. This can play a role in the performance of this study population also. So what are the consequences of being a refugee species? A high prevalence of skeletal pathologies in the Waymo we found were spread over a large geographical region. And for this study population, nearly 90% of the individuals had some problems, skeletal problems. We could relate this to deficiencies in essential micronutrients such as selenium, copper, and manganese, and also found they have a very low average lifespan of 5 years or less. So in conclusion, Waymos remain in the high elevations due to remoteness, loss of tradition to migrate down in winter, and warmer winters than before. And finally, among cervids in seasonal mountain areas, Waymo appear to be the only one that has mostly year-round resident subpopulations in what would be considered a typical summer range, and thus we can classify them as an unfortunate refugee species, one which is stuck in an ecological trap. To our knowledge, this is the first published account of an ungulate species afflicted by these circumstances. The results of the study must be considered when designing future conservation strategies if the declining trend of current populations is to be reversed. I'd like to acknowledge the funding and people who helped us in the field, and most of all, I want to thank you for your attention.